So now that we've got the chisel set up, the hoop set, rounded over, we obviously have to sharpen it. And these chisels come fairly well prepared that if you didn't know any better, you probably could get it pretty usably sharp. But to really make it sing, there's a couple things we have to do. For starters, we're gonna flatten the back so that the entire back of this chisel is completely consistently flat. Sharp really is just two perfectly flat planes meeting. And you know, the perfection of that is a single atom at the edge, but you never get there. This is an unsharpened chisel, so the back has kind of a uniform grind to it. It's also still has some oxidation here. If we were to look at this completely level, this would be fairly flat, and there's a slight hump here that kind of prevents you from easily flattening it, because what you don't want is a step back here, because we're going to be rubbing it on the Kanna. What we're going to go for is something that looks a little like this. You can see this is a mirror shine. There's a little bit of scuff here from a stray piece of sharpening debris, but this will all disappear. This complete mirror finish means that it's been polished uniformly by the ground flat plate here. And actually I can feel a burr on the bevel side. So it actually wore away enough metal that it started to make a burr. And once you have the back flat, we can begin to sharpen the bevel side. So one thing to watch out for when you're doing this is if you sharpen and this has a slight hump and you don't wear this away first, what'll end up happening is it will lift this part of the chisel and create a flat here, so that when you go to flatten it on the Kanna, you're flattening this part of the chisel and this kind of floats in space. So we have to be really careful when we use the stones to start to put pressure on this part and to give us a uniform flat surface when we polish it on the Kanna. I have here a 1000 grit Sharpening stone. Gonna flatten it with this nano hone lapping plate that will make sure that this stone is completely flat. And so this is for material removal. This stone is basically to get any hump in this chisel removed, so that the lowest portion of this chisel is here, lowest in terms of it sitting here. This surface is the bottom. Everything else moves up from there. So you see, that means it's rubbing away material right there. So I want to focus on that and be careful not to remove material here. Using the hump will jog the chisel like this. So I'm applying pressure in the back here. Now you can see it's grinding a little bit on the front. The scratch direction and pattern is like your signposts. You can see if you want to see what's getting sharpened, you can change the direction of the chisel. And I can see there's material being removed all over the place, which means I'm more or less in the range. And I can see diagonal hatch scratches pretty much uniformly across the back of this chisel. I'm not trying to go crazy here and remove a whole bunch of material. Just enough so that there's nothing interfere with the final sharpening of this on the Kanna. So the Kanna ground flat stone. Here's a 800 stone that I'm going to use to create a slurry. It's important that you don't round off your stones, so don't do too much outside of the edge grinding. Stay within the lines of the stone. That'll prevent you from rounding off the edges. If this gets out of flat, it's important to take it to a machine shop and have it reground, because this is basically the foundation of your ability to sharpen the chisel, keep it sharp, and have a really good reference surface on the back of your chisel, which you can use with jigs or paring across the wood. Okay, so I've built up a nice abrasive slurry here, and now I'm going to hold my chisel perpendicular and start working on the back. Oh, I put the butting ring down. And we can see parallel lines across up to the front and a little bit of haze up here. I'm going to work this quite a bit until it gets all a uniform scratch pattern, and kind of do the heavy lifting here before we start to polish it. This is pretty good. It looks like there's same scratch patterns throughout the whole back of the chisel here. So now I'm going to move on to the 1000, create a little more aggressive slurry, because this cuts better as a harder stone. You're not putting a whole hell of a lot of pressure on this, nor are you being light. If you put too much pressure on it, there's a chance that you could score the softer metal that the Kanna is made out of, and then you're kind of fucked, because that can transfer bad score marks to your chisel. You can see this black slurry that's getting built up, which is a combination of the abrasive grit and the metal from the back of the chisel and the metal of the Kanna, and that's doing a lot of cutting and polishing work. Pretty uniform, pretty clean. So now we'll do the polishing step, which will reveal how flat this actually is. So here I have this is a 5 or 6,000 stone. It's relatively soft. I don't put a whole lot of water, just build up a little bit of polishing slurry. Almost a mirror now. And now for the last step of polishing, we're just going to use the stone itself, metal against metal, a little bit of water, and as the metal comes apart, it will do that final polish. And you can see where the stone kind of darkens, because it actually is abrading the metal a little bit. Alright, so there you have it. Now I put my finger on the edge here and I can feel a burr across the whole edge. So that means it's been flattened up to that very edge. Mirror. There's a little bit of haze on this edge. This might be a hair low in terms of this plane. Like if this is a flat plane, this is a low spot. There's a low spot there. Might be a little low here. I noticed with all these chisels in this box set that for sure there was a good flat plane at the edge. On the sides, it was almost like a slight bowl shape. It definitely touched here, touched on the edge. I could keep working this like I did with this biggest one to get it completely flat all the way around. I'm not super concerned with that. That will polish in as I hit the back, you know, over successive sharpenings. I don't want to remove too much material out of the gate. So this is flat on the back now and ready to move on to the bevel. So now it's time to sharpen the bevel of the chisel. We have the back flattened. It's time to bring this plane into a high polish, perfectly flat, as well as flat as we can get it. You know, it's a journey that I'm on, and sometimes there's a slight round, and that's just, it will happen if you don't practice keeping this perfectly flat against your stone. It's not, don't be ashamed to hollow grind this so that you have 2 points of contact. It's what we do a lot with our planes and chisels. The goal of here is obviously to do good woodwork, and it's better to have a maybe not perfect looking chisel that's very sharp than it is to have a beautiful chisel and not have anything built. So I'm going to start with a Sharpening 1000. If your stone's not flat, your chisel's not going to be flat. So again, use a diamond plate or a lapping plate to ensure your stone is flat. If I have to do some rework, like get rid of a chip or substantially alter the shape of the chisel, 400 stone was a little more aggressive and will build a burr a lot quicker. But for a basic sharpening, 1000 is going to be sufficient. Some people hold it like this. Some people hold it like this. I find what natural motion is to keep pressure on the bevel. Now the burr is removed off the front, and you can start to see the diagonal scratch patterns. So if you can't, if at first you can't go back and forth consistently, just take your time. When I first did this, the teacher said it's like a plane that hits with the rear wheels first and then the front wheel. So you rear wheels, front wheel, down the runway. Be sure to use all the stones so that you don't wear a hollow in it, which will then fuck up the straightness of your blade. Also, don't be afraid to re-flatten it. Now what I'm feeling for here is a burr that will start to form when this gets completely flat and starts to roll over the metal. Now I can feel there's a burr across the whole edge. And we're going to switch to the polishing stone. This is a 10,000 Kensho. Now this one has your finished edge, so it needs to really for sure be So I think of this as 3 stages. Initial polish, burr removal, micro bevel polish, final burr removal. Maybe that's 4 stages. So first we're going to do the initial polish. Same thing. Much lighter because you don't want to dig into the, if the stone is a little softer. It's a mirror now. Getting there. Okay, now first level of burr removal. We already polished the back on the Kanna, so we're not going to try to go crazy on this. We're just going to remove the burr by holding steady pressure, stroking back. So now there's no burr here. Any burr that existed sort of came off in that little stroke there. Now it's already pretty sharp, but now we're going to do the micro bevel, which is how you get the extreme sharpness. Now, this is controversial probably because kind of like a thing Western chisels do, but so I'm not going for an obvious micro bevel that changes the angle. I'm basically going to set the front, lift it maybe 2 degrees here, and take some light strokes. Get a consistent flat edge, almost imperceptible. And same, almost an imperceptible burr too. Just a hairline where the angle changes. And now, final burr removal. Just a little polish to do the final sharpening. So it's controversial, but you can see, if the hairs jump, it's sharp. You should be able to put it through hairs that are standing up and make pop off you kind of. So this is pretty sharp. So now I just got to do it all the rest of the chisels. So, you know, it might not be the prettiest. I'm far away from making this a perfectly flat bevel, but it's sharp and it's dangerous and it can do good woodworking. So I hope you found some use out of this, or it's giving you some ideas to improve your sharpening game. You know, we're all trying to get to the same place. Thanks for watching.
Hi, if you liked this video, please let me know by clicking that thumbs up, and consider subscribing to the channel by clicking the red subscribe button. Please check the notes below the video for more ways to keep this channel going. Your support is greatly appreciated, and always, never stop building.